106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
And now, Deep Thoughts by Brad and Gary.
Hello and welcome to the Not Ready for Primetime Project. We're Gary Seath and Brad Robinson.
And you're not.
This week on Deep Thoughts, we're talking about The Blues Brothers. The movie, Brad.
Yes, it is June, 46 years ago, anniversary of the release of the Blues Brothers. And if you're going to talk Blues Brothers, Gary, there's really nobody else you can talk to other than our guest today, Daniel de Vise. Daniel, welcome back.
Oh, pleasure to be back. Thank you.
And we should say, Gary, like you mentioned, we're talking about the movie specifics. If you're listening, this conversation is going to be about the movie, The Blues Brothers. But this is not the first time we've talked to Daniel. And if you want to listen more, hear more about the Blues Brothers in general, we had a great conversation a while back with Daniel about his book, The Blues Brothers, An Epic Friendship, The Rise of Improv, and the Making of an American Film Classic. Check that out. But tonight, we are talking strictly about the film classic. What I actually enjoyed possibly more than rewatching this movie again was I reread the chapters on the book, and I was like, this book is so great. I loved going through the entire, which, as we mentioned last time, the meat of the book is about the movie.
Yeah.
It is the meat of the book, yeah.
Yeah, and I read that whole big chunk again, and it was great. I loved it again.
Well, thank you. You're a better man than me. I've been so busy with my job. I think my book may be probably as good a contemporary source as you're going to find on this film.
Yes.
I don't know how good I am because it's forgettery. You know, I finished the book a few years ago now, so I'll try to remember what's in it. But the book is my Bible as far as the film. And Brad, you'll probably remember more of it than I do, but I will do my best.
Well, we also just wanted to celebrate the movie and talk about how much we love it and all the stuff that makes it such a classic. So it'll be fun.
In my opinion, there's no better way to celebrate the movie than by talking about it while drinking an orange whip, which
You've got an orange whip.
I made. I made a couple of orange whips tonight.
Oh my goodness.
Orange whip. 3 orange whips.
Who wants an orange whip? Orange whip? Orange whip? 3 orange whips.
Well, as I mentioned, I went back and reread the book and were reminded of many things I had forgotten. And the first thing was the idea for the movie. When the idea even came to be, in my mind, I had an order of events of they were on SNL, they recorded the album became a huge success, and then they decided to make a movie. But that's not actually the case. The idea came before the album, apparently, which I hadn't remembered.
Well, let's see. The funny thing about this is that there's tons of Blues Brothers fans in Europe and like Australia. And the funny thing is all of them think that the movie and the characters are kind of synonymous, that if you're from Europe, you just kind of assume that these characters were created for the movie and that it was all just created as one big thing. What you know, if you're from the States is, and if you're of a certain age, is that these characters, of course, had existed for at least a few years before the film came to be. And that really the reason for the film was Belushi's celebrity.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Belushi had his breakout role in Animal House. And after that came out, there was no question there was going to be a next Belushi film. And the only question was what it was going to be.
It's like mind-blowing to think of that. Like literally it was because he wanted to make a movie about the Blues Brothers and they just signed on. And it was like a bidding war to people to sign on. I remember you were like Universal and Paramount, all these people wanted to be in the John Belushi business. And it was all based on this act they did on TV once, basically.
It was, you could argue barely enough for a sketch. How could it possibly be broken out into a film? And of course there wasn't that history in 1978 or 9 of SNL sketches being made into sort of thinly plotted films. but that's how crazy, Belushi was so big that I don't think Universal maybe even cared that much what the movie actually was going to do. Let's just do a movie. And Dan Aykroyd, who wound up writing the script in its entirety pretty much himself, had not written, I don't think, anything longer than a sketch. He'd written a bunch of sketches for SNL, but he hadn't written anything like a film script. So it was pretty crazy.
Right. The idea of doing a film, yes, let's do a film because John Belushi's into a film, but then to take the Blues Brothers, it really does fall on Dan to flesh this out into not just a script, but also he does, the whole like backstory and how this is going to go and how they came to be, how the band came to be. And he went on a road trip, right, Daniel? You talk about it in your book that he did a road trip in a police cruiser.
Yeah, he took some time off, and this would have been between seasons, and drove around. They provisioned him with a vehicle, and he got all these Polaroids, and I had sheets, like contact sheets, showing the pictures which Big Bob Weiss, the producer, had showed me. So I saw all these Polaroids that Dan snapped, and he found, you see a lot of the stuff ended up being in the script. He got lots of ideas. He loved Chicago because he loved Belushi, and Belushi was from Chicago. So he kind of adopted Chicago into his heart and drove all around the city and around its environs. I think he toured past, Joliet Prison and saw it, and found like the Curl Up and Die. So there was an actual place of that name. And so a lot of what ended up being in the script, he just saw on this big road trip,
Yeah, and I love in your book you tell the story on how he then took all of these Polaroids and put together a presentation to pitch the story of the film, and like, this is how it's going to go. And for me, it's kind of the brilliance of Dan Aykroyd of going on this road trip, A, having someone pay for this road trip so he can do it, and then B, putting together this entire story about these two guys that he's creating these characters and that world, and it's amazing.
Yeah, we might have discussed this when we talked before, but basically the genesis of all this was that Belushi had fallen hard for the blues while he was on the West Coast filming Animal House. He met Curtis Salgado, who was a blues man who was playing with Robert Cray, who became quite famous later. Mm-hmm. And Salgado is great too, and just decided that's what I want. I want to be a blues man. And he came back from Oregon just smitten with the blues. And Aykroyd was already smitten with the blues and had been for years, going back to when he was in Canada. So from when Belushi returned from that shoot, he was just all in on the blues and wanted to be these characters. And so they put these personas together, and Judy Belushi helped them, with the look. And Aykroyd, being the idea man, it was kind of his job to flesh it all out and to create backstories. Who are these guys? And he loved Belushi and loved Chicago, so they became these hoodlums who were from the Chicago area. But basically, Aykroyd spent some months pulling these stories together and kind of just, he was a method guy, so he wanted these characters to be real characters. And I get the sense that Belushi especially, and maybe both of them, to some extent, they were already starting to separate from SNL a little bit. Belushi, all he cared about was assuming the character of Jake and going and singing the blues. He almost like he wanted to become a rock star, because both of those guys were kind of frustrated musicians. A lot of comedians are, apparently.
Well, it's an interesting point too. You bring up about leaving SNL. Lorne doesn't produce this movie. It's a Bernie Bilstein movie. They kind of make a decided choice to not bring Lorne in and have Bernie produce the movie and make it their own thing. John was definitely out the door, like you said. But yeah, they were very big on making their own thing. I can't remember if you told us you didn't see the original script, right? There's this story. The original story of this first script was like in a phone book, and it was 300 pages. Did you ever?
I did, and I did, and I didn't.
Oh,
I did, and I didn't.
Okay.
It was 324 pages, which equates to 324 minutes, which is a lot of minutes for a film.
Yeah.
And I saw a lot of it. This, again, is thanks to Big Bob Weiss, the producer. He still had a lot of it. And so I had in my computer at one point a couple hundred pages of the script, probably half of it. And I read it. And so you'll see in the book where I'm referring to the actual full script. And what's cool about it, and to give Aykroyd his due, is like everything that was in this 150 or whatever pages of crazy long script, all of it really wound up in the actual shooting script for the film. Landis used almost all of it, but just in much compacted form, because Aykroyd, he wrote this stuff really long. He had like these long backstories for like each of the characters, and it was just a much, much longer version. But he had the germ for like most of the scenes that ended up being in the actual film. They all came out of his noggin. You know, he came up with all of that. It was kind of pretty brilliant.
Yeah, wasn't it like two stories of the band, like the creation of the band and then Jake getting out of prison? It was kind of like that huge epic kind of a thing.
Well, he had enough script for at least 2 films. And yes, what I recall is that, first of all, just imagine every scene being really long. And then, yes, the main reason why it was so long, the script on the whole was so long, was just, yes, he had like long backstories scripted for each of the musicians.
Yeah.
It would be as if like, you know, the tale of Sir Galahad, you know, but it'd be like the tale of Matt Guitar Murphy that would go on for like, I don't know, 20 minutes. And then you'd have the tale of the second drummer, you know, it would have been quite a long film.
Yeah, I think they took a lot of that stuff. Have you seen this book, the paperback, the Blues Brothers book by Mitch Glaser?
Yeah, you know, that's kind of a booketization of the script, right?
They call it a novel based on the screenplay, but I think it's more so based on the screenplay you're talking about, because so much of this is the backstory. It's like going to find Duck Dunn, going to find Steve Cropper on the farm, going to find. I think they took a lot of the stuff that got taken out of that original script and put it into this book, because this is really like the history of the Blues Brothers, this paperback by Mitch. But in talking about the script, it's probably a good point to segue into John Landis and how Landis got brought in and what he did to the script, right? To really get it, as you mentioned, from 320 some pages to actually something remotely close to shootable.
Yeah. Landis had made Animal House, and he had brought out the best in Belushi in Animal House. He'd made a star of Belushi and had made Animal House into a massive hit. So Landis's currency was very high. So I think it was almost maybe a foregone conclusion that it was as likely as not that Landis was going to direct the next Belushi picture, whatever it might be. And what Landis told me is that he and Aykroyd traded the script back and forth. But I think first, if I remember correctly, Landis spent a couple weeks just cutting. And then I think what ended up happening was he ended up with maybe 120, 130 page script, which is more like 2 hours and change. And then sent it back and forth to Aykroyd. Aykroyd probably added back some stuff that he really wanted in. Landis massaged it. Aykroyd massaged it. They wound up with a shooting script that was maybe 140 pages. And Landis's scripts were more like a rack that you hang clothes on. So in other words, it was understood that they were going to add stuff to the script and embellish parts of it as they went. But so the script wasn't a Bible. It wasn't verbatim.
Yeah. I mean, this is a long movie. I was watching it again, and they get to the Palace Hotel ballroom. I'm like, all right, great. This movie it's almost over. And I looked up, I was like, there's a half an hour left in this movie.
Well, it was a long car chase. I mean, that car chase takes, and it's, God bless it, but it takes forever.
I know.
I think it is surprising though in the rewatch, because Brad, I mean, how many times have we watched this movie in our lives, right? Without realizing that it was 2.5 hours for years.
I haven't realized it was 2.5 hours, and I'm trying to remember. I don't know if I've actually watched it since I've read Daniel's book the first time. So now I've watched it
right
after reading the book twice and knowing there's definitely points I'm watching the movie and remembering stuff I just recently read, but I don't ever remember this movie being this long. And I don't mean it as a bad thing, because it's nonstop. Like the slowest part is the opening. Really, those flyby shots of Chicago. And then John walking through the prison. That's the slowest part of the movie.
It's the slowest part of the movie.
And then after that, Dan picks him up, and it just goes nonstop for 2 hours.
It moves. Yeah.
Let's talk about the film itself. And once they finally, get the script down to a shooting script, like you said, about 140 pages or whatever. Let's talk about the casting, right? This film, again, I think it's kind of lost on, I watched it with my daughter, and she didn't know all of the references, and I don't mean the musical cameos, but some of the other folks that are in the film, she just didn't know who they were and whatnot, because again, you talked about Belushi being a huge star at this time. There is a huge cast of known actors that have bit parts in this film, and it's incredible once you go through it. And before we even get to them, we can talk about the people that were supposed to be in it and weren't.
You write about in the book some of the more well-known people that didn't make it into the movie, like your Little Richard, your BB Kings.
No, these are great stories. You have to hand it to them that Landis and Aykroyd, they had impeccable taste, because Aykroyd wanted to have rhythm and blues legends. I'm not sure that he had a specific list, but these guys came up with a list, and the list, this is significant, because in 1979, I'm not sure that Aretha and Ray Charles and James Brown were quite as titanic names as they are today. They were very important R&B people, but I was around back then, and there were lots of other rhythm and blues characters who were probably equally well known. So they really had impeccable taste. Landis tried to get Little Richard, but Little Richard, as anyone who's a fan knows, was in and out of kind of church. He was conflicted between being a gay man and kind of celebrating queer culture, and being celebrating Jesus and rejecting homosexuality. And so he was in a Jesus phase, and so he wouldn't do the movie. And so they got, as a backup, James Brown. And the funny thing about that is that James Brown had actually been like an understudy for Little Richard at the very beginning of Richard's career. Nobody remembers this, but so here he is again, James Brown, the understudy to Little Richard. Landis wanted to get B.B. King. This is the reason I wrote the book, was that I wrote a biography of B.B. King and found out that B.B. King was approached. His manager, Sid Seidenberg, waved off Landis, said, "BB's too busy, he can't do the movie." So B.B. King didn't even know about the movie until it had come out, and he was very upset that he wasn't a part of it. But Sid, his manager, had decided he was too busy. But you never know that a film's going to be a great film until after it's made. Mm-hmm. And then the other big omission was Muddy Waters. Muddy Waters was in the film and was going to be in the film and was lined up to do the film. And I guess what happened was, a couple days before they shot the Maxwell Street footage, he came down with the flu. And so a doctor examined him and said, "No, Muddy can't do it." And so it was going to be Muddy and John Lee Hooker sitting with like little amps and like semi-acoustic guitars, and they would have played a John Lee Hooker song and then a Muddy Waters song, but it was not. Right. Oh, man. And am I missing anybody? I mean, those were all important.
No, I think they're the big ones.
Those are the big ones. Yeah. I mean, how great would that have been, right?
Could you imagine? I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about that sequence but yeah, even, oh my God, it would have been great. Well, and Daniel, to your point too about the taste that Landis and Aykroyd had for these musicians, your Aretha Franklins, your James Browns and whatnot, but also where they were at that time. And this just kind of dovetails into, the show that Thomas and Jeremy are doing right now, covering season 6 of SNL. It's that in season 6, both James Brown and Aretha Franklin are musical guests on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, probably wouldn't have happened if they weren't in the Blues Brothers and that revival of their fame. So you can see right away their involvement in this movie and what it did to help their careers again.
Well, and therein lies the purpose of the film. That was the real mission from God.
Yeah.
And this, again, is the reason I wrote the book. I was really struck that Landis and Aykroyd and Belushi had an actual mission from God, and that mission was to do whatever they could to help the careers of their idols, the icons of rhythm and blues. And so part of their purpose in making really their only purpose in making the film, the mission that they had was, we want to be in the background. We'll be these Blues Brothers guys, but we're going to be in the background. We want in the foreground our heroes. And so Belushi and Aykroyd and Landis hoped that in doing this film that they would maybe push them back up to the upper echelons of venues and help to revive their careers.
The other thing to bring up before we get into, specifics of scenes and stuff like that and sequences of the movie, and we might have talked about this last time you were here, but you write about it a lot in the book, is the importance of filming the movie in Chicago. And at the time, how that wasn't really a thing that was done for reasons, again, you talk about in the book, but, just not only how they were able to shoot in Chicago, but have free reign in shooting in Chicago, and just what that meant to the movie of making the just elevating the movie that much more.
Yeah. So there hadn't been films really made in Chicago for many years. Richard Daley, the father, Richard J. Daley, the elder Daley, had more or less banished films from Chicago in the 50s because there was a TV show, I guess, that portrayed Chicago cops in a bad light. So when I was growing up in the city, I wasn't accustomed to seeing the city in films. There were a few exceptions. Cooley High School, that movie got made in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
My Bodyguard came around 78 or something, that was made in Chicago, but there weren't many. It was pretty much a dead zone as far as movies. I think there was even like a porn industry, but that was kind of a small deal. A cottage industry, if you will. And so the Blues Brothers gang came in and persuaded Mayor Daley's successor, because I think Bolandic had served in between. And then Mayor Byrne, Jane Byrne, was the first female mayor of Chicago. She was the sitting mayor. And the film crew persuaded her to open the gates to them. She was more than delighted to do that. She had been really done wrong by Daley's cronies. They were very misogynistic toward her. Mm-hmm. So I think she was kind of overjoyed at the idea of reversing this policy of her predecessor. So yeah, she let them in. They had this meeting at the mayor's office, and Belushi, Mayor Byrne is like, "Is there anything else I can do for you?" And yeah, we want to like smash a cop car through Daley Center Plaza. And she's like, "I'm down with that," because that was named after the late Mayor Daley, who she didn't really like.
So then we get to the shoot, and again, long script, right? The shooting script is still long. They had a lot of days planned for shooting, right, Brad?
Dude, it was nuts, man. I again, only because I read it in Daniel's book, it was a 74-day schedule. That is very long for a movie. Like a 74-day schedule is not typical for a movie. I can tell you firsthand. I think it said in your book, Daniel, that they were supposed to start in the beginning of August and were supposed to be done in the beginning of November. But just reading that as somebody who works in filmmaking, a 74-day shoot is ridiculous if you're on time.
What I recall is that they were going to basically do the exteriors in Chicago, and then the interiors. Some of them they were planning to do in the city, but I think most of them they were planning to do later in LA. And it was getting progressively colder as they shot it, because they started a little after that August 6th start. They started a week late, and then they kept getting, this is a running thing in the book, they kept getting farther and farther behind to where they didn't finish until the end of October, which if you know Chicago, there's no telling what weather you're going to get in the second half of October. And I looked at the old weather archives, and it was indeed very, very cold as they were finishing the exteriors in Chicago.
I feel like they must have finished with the Palace Hotel, like the exteriors of the Palace Hotel ballroom, because it looks cold those nights. Like when they're in the tunnel or they're in the, they're getting in the car. Like it does look cold.
Well, I remember that the scene outside of Ray's Music Exchange, that kind of Robert Crumb sort of dance routine, that was a very cold sequence of a couple of days.
Oh, wow, because there's a lot of short sleeve shirts there.
That's
that was very cold. That I remember, and there was other stuff, and the people on the crew were talking about how it was like almost like icy when they were filming stuff at night. Really, really cold.
Oh yeah.
Wow. That's funny, because that's a scene that I thought surely would have been shot early because of the way it looks, and everyone's in shorts and tank tops, and
No, they were freezing there.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that scene because all the people on the top on like the elevated bridge are all like not in the movie. They're just people watching and they're having a blast. I love that sequence.
Yeah, that's so much fun.
Something I didn't remember in reading your book, an exterior that was not in Chicago was the Bob's Country Bunker, was shot on the lot at Universal, because you talk about how it's on the lake where the Jaws Lake is in Universal. And I had no idea.
And that was actually, that was a cold night in LA. It would have been probably like around December or something.
Oh, sure.
And that was a what do you call it? It was on the back lot.
Yeah, the back lot. Yeah.
And then after they filmed that exterior, I think there was some danger that Universal was going to use the same property in like another shoot. And so I think it's in the book that Landis and Cessna like broke the windows out so they couldn't use it.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
Yeah. But yes, you're right. That was one of probably a small number of exteriors that were filmed later.
Yeah.
And why that is, I'm going to guess they maybe didn't have a good location in mind in Chicago for that, for Bob's Country Bunker.
Either that, or like you were saying, they just kept falling farther and farther
They ran
behind
out
schedule,
of time.
and the weather's getting horrible.
They might have
And
just run out of time.
I think we'll get into it, but you also like John was just getting worse and worse, and they kind of wanted to get everybody back home. I think they were just away for too long, and at one point, Universal was just finally like, "Let's get everybody back. Enough of this. Get everybody back, and we'll finish it here." Thinking they could reel it in.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into the movie then. So we've talked about, the writing and the casting, getting into it. So are there any, there are a list. We made a list after reading it and watching it of just things you could talk about this movie. What are some of your more favorite stories or scenes or, tales to tell from the movie itself?
Well, I had to go back and kind of reread some of my own book to remember this, but, to some extent, the big scenes from the film correspond to some of the best stories of filming it. One that's very funny, but it's from later on. It was filmed in Hollywood. The interior of Ray's Music Exchange. Mm-hmm. That's the scene where they're negotiating the purchase of, or rental or whatever, of some equipment. And if you look closely at that scene, the guys from the band are kind of messing around at these kind of glass countertops in the background. And the truth is they were pretending to like cut, I guess, lines of coke. I've never done this, but they were just to be goofy. Landis had told them to act like musicians. And so they were kind of thought that was funny because that's what musicians acted like in the late 70s. They were cutting lines of coke. And then at some point while Landis was filming, somebody actually brought out actual cocaine and started cutting it because they thought that was really hilarious. And Landis really went ballistic then and cut, and I don't think that got into the film. But them kind of pretending to cut up lines of coke got in the film. And then the other funny thing from that scene was that Ray Charles, because of a kind of miscue, fired the blank gun at the wrong time a couple times. He was blind, right? And so it wasn't the easiest thing for him to figure out with the cues. And so they said, "Take the gun away from Mr. Charles." Yeah.
Have either of you? Do you guys remember the band Hanson?
Yeah.
Stick with me on. Just stick with me.
I'm actually. Hold on a second. I'm really disappointed in myself at how quickly I was
you answered real quick.
No, of course I remember.
I appreciate it. So I don't know if I told you this story, Daniel, but the whole reason we got into doing this podcast is I started researching a Blues Brothers docuseries I wanted to do of the Blues Brothers from the creation all the way through, and so I did all this research trying to find influences from the Blues Brothers. And the band Hanson, who anybody who might not remember, had the wonderful tune Bop back in the late 90s.
Bop.
Apparently they kept making records. I didn't know this. But they did a song a while back, and they recorded a music video in homage to that sequence of Shake a Tail Feather with Weird Al Yankovic in it. And Weird Al Yankovic does the Tom Malone's tambourine routine.
Wow. I did that.
Okay.
It's a pretty good recreation of that scene.
The Aretha scene, and this was also one that was done in interior in LA. Just kind of funny that she was supposed to lip sync and she didn't have her glasses. She couldn't see very well. There were some cue cards, I guess, with the lyrics put up, and they had to do a bunch of takes and she isn't quite lip syncing properly. But then she got tired of doing it because it was like too many takes. She wasn't pleased with. But that, of course, that was a beautiful scene. It's a great scene. And there's some other, yeah. Oh, and then I just love the moment and the Maxwell Street scene.
Yeah, we got to talk about that. That scene's amazing.
Boom,
when it cuts to Jake and Elwood just kind of watching John Lee Hooker perform, and Elwood just sort of stands there just kind of looking misty-eyed and just says, sort of like, yep. You know, and he's just, the way I said in the book, it was like he was almost like verklempt, because I think it was at that moment that he realized, wow, they're making my effing movie, you know, this is my dream, and they're doing, here it is playing out in front of me. So that was kind of a moving moment for me.
It's one of the things I forgot, because I have, you know, watched the extended version a bunch too, and the one really great thing about the extended version is there is an extended Maxwell Street sequence.
Oh, they get the whole song in?
It's not the whole song, but they have the part where they fight about who wrote the song Boom Boom. He's like, I wrote Boom Boom. I know I wrote Boom Boom. And in my mind, that was in the original version. And then I'm watching it the other night, and I was shocked at how short that sequence actually was with John Lee Hooker, because I keep remembering the one where he's outside fighting with Pine Top Turkins about who wrote Boom Boom.
Aykroyd was really upset about the cuts from that song. I mean, he really would have wanted every entire song to be included in the movie, so he was really upset about those cuts.
Yeah.
The other mega scene, I mean, you could talk for hours about all these scenes, but there's some great stories about the mall scene.
Oh my God, it's iconic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just starting with when the scouts found that dead mall, they didn't even want to show it to Landis because it would have needed so much work. They were afraid it would put them over budget, right? Just outfitting the mall so it was a live mall. But Landis found out about it, and then he had to do it. And it's just crazy to think that when they shot inside the mall, they filled it up with real merchandise, real food that was like slowly rotting, and this sort of agreement that they would sort of return whatever they could at the end of it, the real merchants that had. And I'm from Chicago, and those names like Bigsby and Crothers and stuff, those are real places.
Really?
Like from my childhood. Yeah, there's a bunch of names of those mall stores. Some of them mean something to you if you're from Chicago.
Man, this place got everything. What do you got, Gary? Favorite scenes?
Oh, his favorite scenes. You know, a scene that
Because there's probably a story behind it. So,
well, yeah, no. One of the scenes that I forget about until I watch it is the scene with the penguin. Like, I just love that scene where the two of them go back to the orphanage where they grew up, and they're talking to the nun played by Kathleen Freeman, right? That's her name.
Mm-hmm. Kathleen Freeman. That sounds right.
Yeah. And she's hit, like they start mouthing off, and she hits them with the ruler, and then it's just the back and forth thing. God damn you, fat penguin. It's one of the scenes that I just, because it's so early in the film, it really kind of sets everything up for me of like who these characters are and how they came up. And I find myself laughing at that scene harder than I remember every time I watch it.
Well, and Stephen Katz, the cinematographer, worked really hard on getting this kind of horror movie ambience.
Yeah. She like floats with the ruler.
The county took a tax assessment of this property last month. They want $5,000.
Doesn't the church have to pay that?
They would if they were interested in keeping the place. But they aren't. The Archbishop wants to sell this building outright to the Board of Education.
What's going to happen to you?
I'll be sent to the missions, Africa, Latin America, Korea.
Forget it. $5,000, no problem. We'll have it for you in the morning. Let's go, Elwood.
No! I will not take your filthy, stolen money.
Well, then. I guess you're really up shit creek.
I beg your pardon. What did you say?
I offered to help you.
Mm-hmm.
You refused to take our money.
Mm-hmm.
Then I said, I guess you're really up shit creek.
Ow!
Christ, Jake, take it easy, man.
Elwood.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Ow!
Jesus Christ.
Shit.
Stop, you bitch. Hey. Jesus Christ, son of a bitch. Oh, you fat penguin.
And the other thing I remember is the that stunt of Jake tumbling down the stairs in his chair apparently was quite dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the penguin scene, Gary, you're right. And it does a great job of setting up the movie. Like, this is this plot of the movie to save this orphanage. And then the fact that scene takes you right into the Curtis scene where you realize why it's so important to them. Like, it's such a great 1-2 punch with her and Cab Calloway. It's a really great way to kick things off.
Yeah. And I think that's something that I didn't appreciate when I was younger and first watching this too, was Cab Calloway. That they got Cab Calloway and he did this film, but then making that connection of him in the beginning of the film, because like you said, Brad, this is 2.5 hours. So we're 2 hours later that we see Cab Calloway actually perform.
Oh yeah.
And there was that disconnect for me that when I was younger that I didn't necessarily make, the first couple of times I watched it, but yeah, it's pretty amazing to see it, play out. And now.
Yeah.
Oh, and as far as casting decisions, I think I mentioned in the book that I think Cab Calloway was maybe the second most legendary band leader from that era, and the first would have been Duke Ellington, right? And he had died, I think, shortly before they made the movie. So Cab Calloway was the best living big band leader, basically. So it's cool that they got him.
And didn't he want to do hadn't he recorded like a disco version or something of Minnie the Moocher, and that's what he wanted to do, and Landis was like, no, you need to do the original.
Yeah. Disco was like a virus. It was everywhere. And the studio also didn't want these tired old musicians, quote unquote. Right. They wanted them to use Rose Royce, the band from Car Wash. And, just to discofy things up a little bit. They didn't share Landis's and Aykroyd's faith. Right. That Aretha and James Brown were the right choices.
I mean, let's put it into context of today, right? It's as if Brad and I came to you and we were like, we want to make a hair metal movie, right? Like, no one's going to sign up and be like, yeah, they got Poison, they got Whitesnake. We're going to have all these guys that make a film.
It's really sad. When you said hair metal, the first band came in my mind was Poison.
Oh, there we go. But yeah, I mean, these are musicians that just were written off at this point in the late 70s.
Yeah, they'd been written
80s.
off. And music moved very, very quickly back then too. So eons had passed since Aretha was really hot. I mean, it might as well have been 100 years. Mm-hmm. Things moved so fast in pop music in the 60s and 70s.
When we're talking Cab Calloway, one of the scenes I really enjoyed and loved watching again, and I don't think I appreciated when I was younger back in the day, is the Palace Hotel ballroom sequence for two things. One, that house is packed. And again, if we making movies nowadays, you'd fill that a third and you would digitally replace everybody and you would tile everything. But it was amazing to look at that theater. And two things. One, it was packed with real live people. And two, they all performed what they needed to do. They sang along to Minnie the Moocher. They sat there stone-faced when the Blues Brothers first came on. And then they lost their shit when they got good. Like, it was amazing to watch a real live big audience in the film. I appreciated that. Yeah. And the second thing was, and again, reading the book, Daniel, John's performance and what happened right before that, because that's the infamous John Belushi on a skateboard story where he the
skateboard
so
accident.
It's like, this is again shot in LA, it's an interior, and they were in California, and I'll let you tell the story, Daniel, but it was apparently John got really, really hurt riding a skateboard before this.
Yeah, he was partying somewhere out like in the valley or something and fell off a skateboard and hurt his knee hard. And I think I asked Aykroyd about this. Whatever knee it was, I think it was the same knee that he had injured rather badly earlier. And they called in a doctor in the middle of like a holiday weekend and did like a sort of athlete sort of repair on it and gave him this brace, a knee stabler. And he came in and it meant that he couldn't do quite as many gymnastics as he had hoped. But anyway, Belushi couldn't do all the calisthenics that he would, but he did an admirable quantity of calisthenics. Funniest thing about that Palace, it was shot at, I'm not going to remember the name of the venue in Hollywood, but they had extras. A lot of them got recruited from like the local radio stations, and they all had weed because they were young adults, and it was 1979. So they were all like smoking. And then the cops who'd been hired to keep order started like clamping down and like threatening to like haul them off to jail. And so the people making the movie had to like calm down the cops, say, guys, let's just go easy on them. We're just making a film. So they kind of made a truce. And then at one point, like Belushi's like dealer shows up outside the hall, and there's a confrontation where like I think Landis kind of shoos him away. Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Well, you bring up something, and it's kind of hard to talk about the movie and not talk about it, but we should talk about the drugs and the drug use on this movie, because there's there's some famous stories, and it's not just John. So there's the story of, I think a famous story now a lot of people know, of Landis busting into John's trailer and flushing down a pile full of coke down the toilet. John, which I had never realized, and then I read and watched it, the gas station scene with Twiggy, that they had to like carry John out, and he almost died that night but he was so messed up. And was it that night?
Yeah, the last week that they were in Chicago, Landis told me there were 2 different mornings when Belushi had to be resuscitated, that he was they had to call in paramedics 2 different times, break down the door, that he, nearly died twice. And that became a cliffhanger, obviously, in my story. And Landis had mentioned it a couple of times in interviews, but I don't know, for some reason it had never registered with anybody, so it hadn't really been reported with the gravitas that it deserved. But yes, you're right. That gas station explosion Twiggy thing was just about the last thing they filmed in Chicago. And you can see, if you watch that scene, a few of the nighttime scenes, you can tell Belushi's really out of it, because it was the middle of the night and he was usually not at his best at those hours. So yeah, you can tell he's barely there. Landis said he was at his best at 75% of full Belushi capacity, the Blues Brothers. But in that scene, he's more like 25%. He's barely awake.
And Carrie Fisher was having issues, right? There's a story about when they shoot that Curl Up and Die, which I never really realized, but she was apparently...
She was tripping on acid, according to the filmmakers. And so she's really kind of just staring at the pages and turning them slowly. God knows what was going through her head, but she didn't have a whole lot to do in that movie. I think I figured out she was on screen a total of 4 or 5 minutes, and she's kind of almost the closest thing to a co-star. I mean, it was a 2-hander, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that the right lingo for filmmaking?
Yeah.
It was like a Laurel and Hardy movie, and there wasn't anybody. There was no third billed performer, really. But if there was one, it was Carrie Fisher, because she was huge. But she's barely in the movie. She's really in just a few wonderful scenes. The one with the machine gun or whatever, being the signal one.
Well, and I think that's interesting. Like you say, Daniel, it's really a 2-hander with Dan and John. You have folks like Carrie Fisher and John Candy, who both have, I would say prominent roles for people other than Dan and John. And then the band,
Yeah.
The band,
Duck Dunn gives an amazing performance.
Now, who here at this table can honestly say that they played any finer or felt any better than they did when they were with the Blues Brothers? You were the backbone, the nerve center of a great rhythm and blues band. You can make that live, breathe, and jump again. Murph and the Magic Tones, look at you in those candy-ass monkey suits. And I thought I had it bad in Joliet.
At least we got a change in clothes, sucker. You're wearing the same shit you had on 3 years ago.
Jake ain't lying, though. We had a band powerful enough to turn goat piss into gasoline.
But we'll never get that fat sound again. Not without some more horns. We'll never get Mr. Fabulous.
Or is he?
Forget it. Mr. Fabulous is the top maitre d' at the Chez Paul. He's pulling down 6 bills a week.
Yeah, and Matt Murphy up and got himself married.
Where is Matt Guitar Murphy?
He opened a soul food restaurant with his old lady on Maxwell Street, and he took Blue Lou with him.
You'll never get Matt and Mr. Fabulous out of them high-paying gigs.
Oh, yeah? Well, me and the Lord, We got an understanding.
We're on a mission from God.
Yeah, no, I mean the band have a big role in this film, and these are the cream of the crop musicians, and they're being asked to also act in this film. And I think they do, for the most part, they do a decent job throughout this film.
Yeah.
Well, I think Landis was aware of the gravitas of Steve Cropper and Donald Duck Dunn and Matt Guitar Murphy and the others, and knew that this was really important, that they be in the film, that they were a part of the rhythm and blues scene that was being memorialized and sort of canonized in the film. So he wanted them in there. And the instructions he gave them were to, for God's sake, don't act, just be yourself. And the drummer, whose name I'm not going to remember, the drummer does a great job in that scene in the Holiday Inn where he kind of menaces Jake and Elwood. It's a great turn.
Willie Too Big Hall.
That's right.
Willie Too Big Hall. Thank you.
He's like, you're out. You're rehabilitated. You're looking good. You got the money you owe us, motherfucker. The only other story thing and I'm sure we'll touch on something else again, but I always was interested, and I never knew it until I read your book, when we talk about that extremely long car chase and they get into the building, they're going to the Cook County Assessor's office and they get in the elevator. And I always wonder, I was like, why in the hell is it the girl from Ipanema? I was like, it's always a weird thing. And then I realized it was a Landis dig because he wanted it for Animal House.
It was a joke. Yeah. Landis had wanted to parody the girl from Ipanema in Animal House. They'd written joke lyrics, but Jobim, is that the writer, had said no. And so Landis was sore about that. So copyright law permitted him to use a Muzak version, which I'm sure Jobim would have hated, as long as there was no lyrics, I guess. And so this is hilarious in its just utter quiet, them just working their way up the floor after just total madness. And then they're just in this elevator with this cheesy Muzak. It's one of my favorite moments in the film just because of that, I guess, juxtaposition of what's happening before and after they enter the elevator to what happens, which is nothing inside the elevator. We're just slowly drifting up to meet with Steven Spielberg.
Which is another great cameo and one that I think gets lost because it's so quick, but he's eating, he's got the sandwich.
Yeah.
Right.
And most people don't know who it is. Yeah.
That's a good one.
He just looks like a dweeb.
That definitely
in a sweater
does.
vest, right?
Oh, it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
What else do we want to talk about with the film? Because there are so many things I hate to this day. I still hate Illinois Nazis.
God damn, this movie's quotable.
Yeah, the swear word that the cop utters was unscripted. He just came up with it. I think that was an actual cop who said that line.
What's going on? Those bums won their court case, so they're marching. What bums? Fucking Nazi party.
That's a great moment in the film. That great guitarist from Rage Against the Machine, I think.
Tom Morello?
Yeah. Put that, like a whatever you call it, like a meme of that scene up on, I think, like Twitter not long ago. And it's just great that it's still got currency, you know. It's just a beautiful moment. And they threw like dead fish into the lagoon. So when the Nazis got dumped in the lagoon.
I looked for it. I saw it. I could see him. I could see him coming up.
Yeah. I don't know that I've ever been to that exact spot in that park. I grew up in Chicago, but I was only on the south side the first few years of my life. And then I lived on the north side. So I probably wouldn't have been to that particular park at that point, but it's beautiful.
What park? Do you know what park that is?
It's Jackson Park, I think.
Okay. You know what's funny? And I never realized it until just watching it. They're not on a road. Those are blatantly cars like pulled up on like a walkway and they basically like parked. Like I looked at it over that bridge. I never noticed it before, but I'm watching this quote unquote traffic jam and I'm like, that's not a road. That's like a walkway. They just parked cars on.
There's a lot in the film that doesn't really make sense, but it doesn't really bear close inspection.
No,
you know?
No. Well, we mentioned the length of the script. There's so much stuff that didn't make it, and some of it made it into the extended cut. But the things that I know of, and tell me, Daniel, if you remember any others, but the Twiggy sequence was longer because the gas station actually blew up at one point. There's a performance at Bob's Country Bumpker, Sink the Bismarck.
More of it, right?
There's which I've heard audio recordings of. Then we talked about the extended John Lee Hooker sequence where he's like, I wrote Boom Boom. And then there's a couple things that made it into the extended cut. One of them being when they come to the flop house or whatever, what do you call it? Where Dan's living. And they park the Bluesmobile like next to a big power generator. And it was supposed to tell a story of like why the Bluesmobile has its power. That got cut out. And then another sequence is they actually show Elwood going to work at the glue factory at one point. And there was a sequence there where, and it's in the extended cut where he's making and packaging the glue bottles, and it's where he steals the glue that he uses at the end.
More backstory, right?
Yeah.
Right. It just shows up.
Oh, right, because the glue doesn't make sense. It's out of context in the finished film.
Yeah, and I think in the morning after Carrie Fisher blows up the apartment complex when John and the police come, and because Dan says, oh, we got to go to work. And I think it came right after that. It was supposed to come after that where he goes to work and he's quitting his job. And the guy's like, I don't want you to leave. And there's a joke where he wears goggles over his, so he's not wearing glasses, but he's wearing goggles over his eyes. And then he gets the glue and then you realize why he gets the glue. But
Daniel, how about you? What are some of your favorite scenes or cameos from the film still?
I've never had a satisfying answer to that question because every year I have a different favorite musical scene from the movie.
That's fair.
I would say at the time I was working on the book, the go-to musical scene that I showed my friends would have been John Lee Hooker and Maxwell Street. I kind of missed Maxwell Street. In fact, I'm not sure if this is because of my book, but I think they moved Maxwell Street back to Maxwell Street. It's been revived, the actual Maxwell Street market. And it happened right after my book came out. So I'll take credit for it, even though I probably don't deserve it. When the movie came out, the critics especially loved the Aretha sequence. In fact, many critics, that was the only thing they liked in the film was the Aretha number. That's obviously great.
Yeah.
Right now, the last time I watched the film, I think I was really appreciating, well, as Brad was, I think the Cab Calloway, and one of you guys was saying the Cab Calloway number because it's beautiful and it's stylized in a really cool way. And that means more to me now because I know more of the inner workings of it.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many. I feel like every musical number holds up on its own. There are no that I'm really like, meh. Still, after this many viewings and this long, but I think on my most recent watch, I really enjoyed the church scene with James Brown and the choir and everyone there.
That's so aerobic.
Yeah.
You know what I noticed watching it? It seemed to me that was the first moment, maybe second moment because they jumped the bridge. The moment they jumped the bridge, but that scene in the church where everyone starts like flipping and doing flips 20 feet in the air, where the movie starts to get absurd. Like it starts to legitimately get absurd from then on out.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Well, that's when yes. And I think for me, Brad, that's kind of when it takes on this otherworldly aura about the film is like, okay, this is kind of supernatural in some way. And it all, and for me, it's like, it all ties back to the church and people doing things for it stays in line with the story that I feel like they're telling. That's why I really appreciate it. And in that scene. And also knowing the backstory that, it could have been Little Richard and not James Brown. And Little Richard was in his preacher phase, right? Like I appreciate it even more.
I don't think mine changes. I got to say, Shake a Tail Feather is.
Oh, it's so good.
Shake a Tail Feather has always been and remains. And watching it again, smile to my face. I might have even turned it up. The minute he's like, excuse me. Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with the action on this piano. And it's also introed with one of the best lines of the movie where he wants to buy it. And Ray's like, yeah, blah, 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 you can take it out today. I'll even throw the black keys in for free. Like one of the best lines of the movie.
Yeah.
And then he walks up there and he goes, doo, 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 woo. And from then on, it's great. And they have a great shot in that sequence when he's playing the piano and you see the piano keys reflected in Ray Charles's sunglasses as he's playing.
That's beautiful.
Like
yeah.
the whole sequence is great. And then, as you mentioned, Daniel, the crowd and the dancing outside, like just all ties together. I love that song.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's my favorite. I mean,
that's one that I always get excited to watch, and I'm always happy when that scene happens.
Yes.
And like you said, Brad, when he's like, excuse me, and pushes him aside, and he's like, I don't think there's anything wrong with the action on this piano.
And then the boys walk around the piano, and Dan rips part of this wrapping of the keyboard.
Yeah, like the faux leather on the side, he just pulls it off. Yeah.
Oh, but other musical scenes aside, I think my favorite scene maybe now is the one in the Shea Paul. Not just because it's really funny, but also because it distills the class essence of this movie.
Yes.
There's this line that's that I used in the book where like that if you're rich and you're from Chicago, then Ferris Bueller is your Chicago movie, and if you're poor, it's the Blues Brothers.
Cameos: Paul Rubens.
Yeah. Paul Rubens
right? As the waiter.
Yeah.
Wrong glass, sir.
I love. So many quotable lines.
Somebody told me that they do that gesture regularly with their husband, and that he knows that he gets it every time she does it.
It's so good. Yeah.
This don't look like no expressway to me. Okay, here we go. Non-music related. Favorite stunt sequence or scene?
Well, you have to love the one in Milwaukee where the Bluesmobile, it shoots up to the, screeches to a halt.
Oh, the ramp.
Road that goes nowhere. Yeah. And apparently in real life, it overshot and there was briefly danger that, they was going to fall. I mean, I don't think it would have fallen very far. But then there's this special effect thing where it bucks and flips and then flies backwards through space
over them.
Yeah, it's just crazy. And they did as much of it as they could with the real car using mercury or liquid mercury or something. And then they use a model for parts of it. Oh, and then of course the Pinto dropped.
Didn't they drop a real Pinto though?
Yeah.
Dropped a real Pinto.
Yeah.
That shot is filmed in, I think, 3 different places. The Pinto was actually dropped.
Yeah. And
it hits where the S curve used to be downtown. And then there's a shot of it hitting the ground, which was filmed on the Universal lot. And I think then there's a shot of them kind of, I've always loved you.
Yeah.
That was shot on a sound stage with stuff blurring, stuff kind of, on a screen. Amazing. I mean, this is no CGI, folks,
Yeah.
All
they
real,
dropped an actual Pinto in Chicago.
Yeah.
It
had to be cleared by the FAA.
Yeah, from a helicopter, I believe, right? They took it up in a helicopter. Something like 1,200 feet. Yeah.
Yeah, roughly the height of the John Hancock building.
Outstanding. That's so good.
Well, my favorite stunt sequence would be the mall, just because it is so crazy and so obnoxious and everything that Daniel talked about. They do it, but that Lower Wacker Drive sequence, the amount of cars that they. Yeah. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead before. I'm laughing at the John Candy line about when the car flies into the semi truck and it's all the way.
Wait, but the amount through the story first, and then you can get to the punchline.
But the amount of police cars they crash on Lower Wacker Drive, and in that sequence, it's just mind blowing. To your point, Gary, of everything being real, like these are all real cars that they're crashing with real guys driving in. It's insane.
Right.
Well, and they had a shop out west of the Loop to repair them. So the number of cars actually destroyed is lower than the number that's cited because a lot of them got rebuilt.
Sure.
So they would crash the same cars over and over again.
Yeah.
Bring them back in, repaint them. A state trooper car gets repainted as a Chicago PD car and crash it the next day. Oh my God.
The sheer, we go back to the script, right? And the sheer size of this script that Dan Aykroyd imagined, and then he and Landis, finally settled on. Like the idea is it's really like this epic film that he imagined for these two blues guys, from Chicago, from an orphanage in Chicago, and he turns it into this epic, street chase with this cop chase, and the Nazis are chasing them and go through daily. Like, it's kind of crazy and absurd. And like you said, Brad, there are a few moments in the film that you see this absurdity, like the dropping of the Pinto, the jumping in the church, and it just brings on this whole new world in and of itself.
Well, it's comic book, it's beyond reality.
The whole movie is absurd. I mean, the whole Carrie Fisher subplot story of trying to kill these guys, from the fact when she has the rocket launcher at the apartment or at the building, and then I was realizing my favorite overall sequence, just for everything involved, has got to be the Bob Country Bunker sequence, and that's got another one where she has the flamethrower and the payphone booth flies up in the air, drops down, and they of course they're fine. I also love how every time they almost get killed and they're covered in dirt or soot or whatever, and the next scene they're clean. They're spanking clean.
But they also totally ignore what just happened, and they get up and just walk away. Yeah. Like, there's no questioning how did that happen or why did that happen.
Bob's Country Bunker's like, there must be $7 worth of change down here. But that whole sequence, because there's so many quotable lines. It's like, chicken wire. We blew a fuse. I don't think so, man. Those lights are off on purpose. And then they're out in the parking lot, and we'll talk to Bob. AM, FM, like that whole entire sequence has got quotable lines. We got both kinds, country and Western.
Yeah.
It's just so hilarious. It's got two great musical performances. It's just, I love that whole Bob's Country Bunker sequence. It's so funny. You're going to look good eating corn on the cob with no fucking teeth. Charles Napier, another one.
I'm going to just, my brother gets in the car. I sit in the car and make the checkout on the dashboard.
So good.
Just sign it like that.
Oh, it's genius.
Shit, I'm gonna tell you boys, that's some of the best goddamn music we've had the Country Bunker in a long time.
Well, sorry we couldn't remember the wreckety old 97.
Oh, why, hell, you guys can learn it next time when you come back.
Bob, about our money for tonight.
That's right. $200, and you boys drank $300 worth of beer.
Well, like when we first came in, the bar lady never charged us for the first round, so like we figured, beer was like complimentary for the band,
Oh, no.
Well, I'll just go out and take up a collection from the boys.
Well, I tell you, I sure would appreciate it.
We could sit here and talk about the movie itself for more than 2.5 hours. Yeah. So we better not do that.
We'll wrap it up.
Yeah. Let's actually talk about the release of the film, because that in and of itself is, again, there's more to it than I think I certainly realized before reading your book, Daniel. But yeah, kind of take us through that. There were problems with this. It didn't open in a lot of theaters, right?
First of all, Landis had to cut quite a bit. Sean Daniel, the studio guy who was kind of in charge of the movie, I interviewed him a bunch of times, didn't see it as like a long movie with it, like Gone with the Wind with an intermission. He's probably right. Yeah. So it ends up getting pretty drastically cut. And then, if memory serves, it didn't open in a huge number of theaters.
I've got your numbers from your book.
Thank you. Because I don't.
No. It opened in less than 600 theaters, and at the time, a typical opening you wrote would have been double that, close to 1,400 theaters.
Thank you. And part of the problem was race-based. It was perceived, there were some kind of racist theater owners who didn't want a film featuring a lot of black characters, I think, in their theaters. So it started a little small. And then the reviews, and this is kind of a thread that runs through a lot of what we now consider the great movies of the 70s and 80s that are considered great now that didn't get great reviews at the time. And that's certainly the case with the Blues Brothers. It was mostly panned when it was released. I quote a bunch of really negative, caustic reviews. The press had been kind of out to get the film. Here I am, I'm in the press, and I'm talking to the damn press. But it had been this kind of punchline for months because it had this ever rising and rising and rising budget. The initial budget was supposed to be like $5 or $6 million. Then it was 12 million. Then it was 16 million. Then it was 20 million. And it became the punchline of all these articles in like Daily Variety and Hollywood Reporter about the wretched excess of Hollywood filmmaking, and it was kind of a poster child for filmmakers being out of control. So when it came out, there was still this kind of reservoir of ill will, I think, toward the movie. This idea that it was this vulgar excess. It's hilarious because you have these movies made for hundreds of millions now with all sorts of tech and nary like a human actor in sight. But at the time, this was considered a vulgar just display of just, destruction. And so most of the critics didn't like it, or at least didn't review it well. The Chicago critics were almost the only ones who really liked it, Siskel and Ebert. And they'd been buttered up by the filmmakers, and they both loved that it was a Chicago film. So they were like the first ones who liked it, as I recall. And it wasn't for years after that it sort of emerged as, I would say, first kind of a cult classic film, and then finally an actual classic film,
But it made a lot of money, did it not? Like, for all the bad reviews, like, it was one of the highest grossing films of the year, right?
Yeah. Like $1 million a day.
Yeah.
Belushi was still a huge star, very bankable.
Yeah.
And it was a great film, and it was hilarious. And so people got it. It did great. It performed wonderfully. Forget the reviews.
Yeah. I mean, it worked out for for Dan especially, but going back to the filming time and how they're working all this stuff out, really, the legacy that this film created, right? You mentioned earlier, in Europe, they think the Blues Brothers started because of the movie.
That it was a one-off thing.
Yeah, it was a one-off thing that just happened. And really, from there, what is it now, Brad? I'm sorry, you said this 45 years later, right?
46, 1980.
46 years later, yeah, that the film came out, and we're still talking about this, and everyone knows it because they've been a staple at Universal theme parks, that they still have a Jake and Elwood performance daily at these theme parks, and the House of Blues was a huge thing for Dan. Let's talk about the legacy of the Blues Brothers because of this film. I don't think without the film, we don't have the legacy, right?
Well, so I thought long and hard about why this film matters all these years later. And I, can work my way up to it. First of all, it matters as as sort of an artifact of the greatest SNL cast, the first SNL cast. It was also, I think, the greatest SNL film. So it's a great monument to kind of that show. And then ascending the ladder of gravitas, it's a great monument to the friendship of Belushi and Aykroyd, this wonderful partnership. My book is really a dual biography, and this film is the great monument to their friendship. Moving up the ladder, it's a great monument to the city of Chicago, which had not really been recognized in film for lots of years. So it's a huge deal to any Chicagoan. And then finally, at the very top, and the reason why this movie's, in the Library of Congress is as an artifact of the careers of these rhythm and blues greats, and which gets back to the mission of God, which gets back to why the film was made. The film matters more than most other films because it is a wonderful memorial to the lives and careers of Aretha, Ray Charles, James Brown, Cab Calloway, and so forth, John Lee Hooker. I think probably Landis knew when he cast those people in the film that the movie was going to endure because of their presence in the film. I mean, it's so much more of an important work because of their participation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's a big legacy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what else we can say about it. Brad, is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think we hit it all. I think, I have a question I'll throw to all of us, and then we'll end on that. Favorite performance in the movie, both from the Blues Brothers band or supporting actor. So like one of each, one from the band, one not, but you can't pick John or Dan. Go ahead.
Gary, you go first because I want to model my response on yours.
Damn. All right. So my favorite performance from anyone in the band, I think we said it already, Brad, but I really think it's Lou Marini when he's like, chicken wire. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Chicken
All right.
wire is one of my favorite lines from the film. Just hard stop. I love that line, and I love his performance in it.
His sad puppy dog eyes when Matt Murphy leaves and he's looking at Aretha Franklin. He's like, well, go on, get it. And he
Go
runs
on.
out.
Yeah.
All right.
It's very
Not
good.
bad.
Yeah.
Not bad. And then non-band. Anybody that was not in the band, musician or regular actor, not in the band.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with one of my all-time favorites. This is kind of an easy pick, honestly. It's chalk. It's John Candy. He's so good in this film. That's why I'm drinking orange whips tonight. Orange whip, 3 orange whips.
Sorry, now I'll do it. Can I borrow that? Thanks. What car is this? 5-5. Hi, this is car 55. We're in a truck. So good.
Exactly. He's so good in this movie.
He is.
Yeah. So I think my favorite acting bit by anybody in the band has got to be the drummer again, menacing Jake and Elwood in the Holiday Inn. That felt very real. And my favorite performance, other than by Jake and Elwood, gosh, that's a tough one. Carrie Fisher gives it her all.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I love their confrontation in the tunnel, and it turns out that tunnel wasn't even in Chicago. They actually built it as a set, and it looks so grimy and disgusting.
Yeah.
And granted, Belushi does his Bogart best opposite her in that scene, but that's a great scene. So Carrie Fisher in that scene is probably my favorite.
That's a really good scene.
It is, yeah. Oh, it is. Yeah.
Oh, Jake. Yeah.
It wasn't my fault.
It's good to see you, sweetheart.
You contemptible pig. I remained celibate for you. I stood at the back of a cathedral, waiting in celibacy for you, with 300 friends and relatives in attendance. My uncle hired the best Romanian caterers in the state. To obtain the 7 limousines for the wedding party, my father used up his last favors with Mad Pete Trullo. So for me, for my mother, my grandmother, my father, my uncle, and for the common good, I must now kill you and your brother.
Oh, please don't kill us. Please, please don't kill us. You know I love you, baby. I wouldn't leave you. It wasn't my fault.
You miserable slug. You think you can talk your way out of this? You betrayed me.
No, I didn't. Honest. I ran out of gas. I had a flat tire. I didn't have enough money for cab fare. My tux didn't come back from the cleaners. An old friend came in from out of town. Someone stole my car. There was an earthquake. A terrible flood. Locust. It wasn't my fault, I swear to God.
Oh, Jake. Jake, honey.
Let's go.
Take it easy.
How about you, Brad?
My band is easy. Duck Dunn. Like, we had a band power enough to turn goat piss into gasoline. Duck Dunn, hands down, best band performance. You guys took the 2 best, I feel like, of non-band member. I mean, Kathleen Freeman, maybe. She is great as the. It's a short role, but
a secret weapon.
It's a great little small performance, and watching again, it's really, really good.
And the Nazi guy from that Laugh-In guy he's great as the Nazi
Henry
leader.
Gibson.
Philadelphia's
Philadelphia's own. Yeah, he's so good.
Yeah, he's terrific.
He's very good. I will say, I also really enjoy Frank Oz going through Jake's
one condom.
personal effects. One condom unused, one prophylactic Used, and he holds it up with the pen.
Soiled.
Yeah, soiled. That's what it is.
Oh man, no, there's so many.
That's a good little Easter egg in and of itself. Is Frank Oz?
Yeah.
I mean, there are a few of those, right? We talked about Steven Spielberg, but Frank Oz, yeah, there are a few of those in the film too that you're like, oh.
There's a John Landis cameo too. I'm sure you know this.
Yes.
At the Picasso Daily Center, he's the first guy running out of the way of the car as it enters the plaza.
I believe Shaka Khan is in this film as well.
Chaka Khan, yeah, she's in the
band.
church.
Yeah.
Joe Walsh is in this film.
Joe Walsh is the guy who climbs up on the table
in the prison.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. At the end,
Jailhouse
right?
Rock.
Jailhouse Rock. Yeah.
I don't know why he was there, but he was there.
Partying with the band.
And, you know, he and Belushi at one point shared a bodyguard, the great...
oh, is that... He introduced him to...
Smokey, right? Smokey, who's a great guy.
Smokey Wendell?
So that might have been the connection.
That's right. He got him from Joe Walsh. That's right. Yeah.
Well, everyone listening to this has certainly watched this film. So I can't say go out and watch this film because that would be ridiculous. But I think it's worth, again, we've talked about this book. Go out.
Yes,
and if you haven't read Daniel's book, read Daniel's book and then go watch the film again, because there's so much to take away from it and you learn so much and you see so many things that you weren't really aware of before. So do that. Daniel, what else do you have to promote? What else do you have going on?
You know, I've got another book in the works. I can't talk about it because my literary agent would kill me.
Okay.
It hasn't sold yet, so pray for me.
Yes.
It's tough out there, you know, nonfiction. Meanwhile, I cover personal finance at USA Today, so if you want to work on budgeting apps, I love my job there. It's a great day job, and I'm also still writing. I review a lot of music books for the Washington Independent Review of Books. I just had a review of a book about the Stones, and next up is a book about the Velvet Underground. And I also write articles for All Music. The last one I did was on my favorite early Neil Young albums. So I'm doing this and that, but the next book will be a few years coming.
Awesome.
You know, books take a long time.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for joining us and talking about the Blues Brothers. When your next book does come out, come on. It doesn't matter if it's related to the Blues Brothers or Saturday Night Live. We're happy to talk about it with you because it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much.
I love SNL. I love your guys' podcast, and I wish you the very, very best.
That's good.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you next week. We'll talk about Blues Brothers 2000. It'll be great.
Yeah, it's good.
All right.
You laugh.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks. Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much.
No, my pleasure. My pleasure. You guys know your stuff.
Well, folks, it's time to call it a night. Do what you feel and keep both feet on the wheel. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. So till next time,
Move 'em on.
hit 'em up,
Hit 'em up.
move 'em on,
Move 'em on.
hit 'em up,
Rawhide. Cut 'em out.
ride 'em in,
Ride 'em in.
cut 'em out.
Cut 'em out. Ride 'em in. Rawhide.
Rawhide. Let's get the hell out of here.
Brad, why do you do this? Do you do this to hurt us?